The Galactic Council was a powerful group of aliens who ruled over many worlds. They were the oldest and strongest species in the galaxy, each with unique abilities and technology. They had seen thousands of species rise and fall, but humans were different. The Council had started hearing strange things about Earth, a small, seemingly unimportant planet. Some of the most powerful members of the Council were worried, while others were just curious. The humans had appeared out of nowhere, and in just a few hundred years, they had gone from simple creatures to a species that could challenge the mightiest empires. The Council had tried to ignore them at first. After all, Earth was just another backwater planet. But now, something was happening. The humans were expanding their reach into space, building ships that could travel faster than anyone thought possible. They were starting to trade with other species, even ones much older and more powerful than themselves. Some people in the Council thought this was just a phase, that the humans would soon collapse under the weight of their own ambitions. But others weren't so sure. "Are we sure they're not hiding something?" asked Sarv, a tall, blue-skinned alien who had seen many worlds fall. He was the leader of the Council and had been around for thousands of years. Sarv had watched countless species evolve and fail, and he didn't like the feeling humans gave him. They were too unpredictable. Most species in the galaxy followed patterns, grew in predictable ways, and eventually hit limits they couldn't cross. But humans? They were breaking every rule. "I've been studying them," said Zira, a younger member of the Council, a short alien with sharp red eyes. "They don't fit any pattern we've ever seen. They don't just adapt to their environment. They change it. They don't just survive, they thrive." Zira's voice was calm, but her eyes showed concern. She had been sent to Earth to study the humans and report back, and what she had learned was shocking. The humans had developed technology faster than any species she knew, and they had done it all by themselves. They didn't rely on the advanced civilizations for help. They built their own ships, their own weapons, and even their own systems of government. "It's as if they've been holding back," Zira continued. "Their history shows they've been on Earth for thousands of years, but only recently did they start making huge leaps forward. Why now?" Sarv looked around the room, his eyes narrowing. "What are you suggesting?" "I'm suggesting that humans have been here far longer than we thought, and they've been hiding their true potential," Zira said. "Maybe they've been waiting for the right moment, or maybe they've just figured out something we don't understand." The room fell silent. The other members of the Council exchanged uneasy glances. It wasn't often that they were caught off guard, but Zira's words were starting to make sense. Humans were still a relatively young species compared to the others in the galaxy, but they were already starting to outpace everyone. This wasn't normal. "We've tried to study them before," said Eros, a large alien with wings that stretched over 2 meters wide. "They don't behave like other species. They don't follow the rules. And now they're growing faster than we expected. We need to find out why." Another member of the Council, Tivar, an old alien with multiple tentacles, spoke up. "Perhaps it's time to investigate Earth. We could send a team there, gather more data." Sarv shook his head. "We don't need more data. We need answers. If humans are hiding something, it's better to know now before they become a threat to us." The Council members agreed. They had been watching Earth for a long time, and now it was clear that they could no longer ignore the humans. They had to understand how they had risen so quickly and why they were so different. The Council could not allow any species to grow too powerful, especially one that might have secrets they didn't know. As they discussed their plans, Sarv couldn't help but think about the possibility that humans were far older than anyone had realized. They weren't just another species. They might be the key to something much bigger. The fact that they were already out in space, spreading their influence across the galaxy, was a sign that they weren't going to stop anytime soon. But the Council needed to know more. They needed to understand what kind of species they were dealing with. Zira stood up and walked to the center of the room. "I think it's time we visited Earth ourselves. We need to see for ourselves what humans are capable of, and why they're suddenly pushing so hard into the galaxy." Sarv agreed, and the council quickly began to make plans. There was no more time to waste. The humans were becoming a force to be reckoned with, and the council needed to know just how old they really were, and how far they could go. The decision was made. The Galactic Council had to learn the truth about humans. They couldn't wait any longer. They would send a small team of explorers to Earth to find out what made humans so special. The Council wanted answers, and they needed them fast. The team was small but powerful, aliens from different worlds, each with unique abilities. Their mission was clear: land on Earth, study the humans, and report back. But what they didn't know was that this mission would change everything. The ship carrying the explorers landed quietly on Earth. It was a sleek, silver craft that blended easily with the sky. The aliens, in their various forms, exited the ship and looked around. They stood on a grassy hill outside a small town, taking in the sights of Earth. It was a peaceful, simple place, but something felt strange. It wasn't the kind of world the Council expected to find such a powerful species. "We've made it," said Varnak, the leader of the group. He was tall, with 4 arms and eyes that glowed like fire. His skin was tough and scaly, a sign of his race's strength. He looked at the others, his voice calm but filled with curiosity. "Let's begin the investigation." The group moved quickly but cautiously. They knew Earth was home to many strange creatures, so they kept their senses sharp. Humans were everywhere, going about their daily lives, unaware of the alien visitors watching them from a distance. The aliens blended in, using their advanced technology to disguise themselves from the humans. They could see everything but couldn't be seen. The first thing they noticed was how humans lived. They built huge cities with tall buildings that reached into the sky. There were cars, machines, and lights everywhere. But what surprised them was the way humans interacted with their world. They seemed to be constantly changing things, fixing them, building new things, tearing down the old. It was as if the humans never stopped moving forward. "Look at this," said Cal, a young alien from the planet Xeria. She was small, with silver skin that shimmered in the sunlight. "They're always inventing, always improving. It's like they can't help themselves. No other species is like this." Varnak nodded. "Yes, but they're still so young. They shouldn't be this advanced." They watched humans as they worked, learned, and created. They saw people of all ages, young children solving problems, teenagers exploring new ideas, and adults building the future. The humans didn't just survive. They thrived. It was something the aliens didn't fully understand. It wasn't just their technology that made them different. It was their drive, their unshakable will to keep improving. The aliens also noticed how humans cared for their planet. They saw them planting trees, cleaning oceans, and saving endangered species. Even though humans had damaged their world in the past, they were working hard to fix it. The aliens had never seen such dedication before. Other species they knew rarely cared about the environment, but humans seemed to feel responsible for everything around them. "This isn't just survival," Cal said. "This is something more. They are changing the world for the better, and they do it in ways we've never seen before." Varnak was quiet for a moment. "Yes, they have a strange power. But it's not just in their technology or their actions. It's in their hearts. They are driven by something deep inside them. They don't give up, no matter what." The group continued their mission, watching humans closely. They observed their cities, their families, and their cultures. They saw how humans fought wars, made peace, and rebuilt their world over and over. There was a strength in them that the aliens couldn't ignore. They could feel it in the air, in the way humans interacted with each other and with their environment. As the days passed, the aliens began to understand more. They realized that humanity wasn't just a species trying to survive in the galaxy. Humans were a force, unlike anything the Council had ever seen. They had a spirit that refused to be broken, no matter the challenges. The aliens were amazed at how resilient humans were, how quickly they adapted to new situations, and how they always seemed to find a way to move forward. But as the aliens grew more impressed with humans, they also grew more worried. If humans could survive this much, adapt this quickly, and overcome their struggles, then how powerful could they become? They had only been in space for a short time, yet they were already making waves in the galaxy. The Council had never seen a species rise so fast, and they feared what might happen if they kept growing at this rate. "Are we making a mistake?" Cal asked one night as the team watched the humans from a distance. "Should we be afraid of them?" Varnak didn't answer immediately. He was lost in thought, watching a group of humans work together to solve a problem. He saw the way they collaborated, how they helped each other, and how they never stopped trying to make things better. It was a powerful sight. "We need to know more," Varnak said at last. "We've only seen the surface. There's something deeper here, something we need to understand before it's too late." The team of aliens continued to watch, learning everything they could. They knew that the answers they were looking for were on Earth, hidden within the humans. They also knew that their mission was more important than they had realized. It wasn't just about studying humans. It was about understanding what kind of species they were dealing with, and how to stop them if they ever became a threat. The aliens had been studying humans for days now, watching them live and work. But something still didn't make sense. The more they observed, the more they realized the humans were far older and more powerful than they had ever imagined. There was something hidden in their past, a secret that no one had discovered yet, and the aliens knew they had to find it. Varnak, the leader of the alien team, sat in the quiet of the spaceship one evening, thinking deeply. The humans were strange. They were strong, yes, but they were also different from any species the aliens had encountered. There was an energy about them, something unique that made them stand out. It was like they had survived more than just the usual struggles of life. They had been through something much bigger. "We need to learn about their past," Varnak said to his team. "We've seen how they live today, but there's more to this story. There's a history hidden in their past that might explain why they are the way they are." Kal, the young alien, looked curious. "What do you mean, Varnak? What are you looking for?" Varnak turned to her. "I believe the humans didn't always live like this. They were not always a powerful species. Something happened to them long ago, something that changed everything. We need to find out what that was." The team agreed. They had to dig deeper into human history, so they decided to visit Earth's archives, places where humans stored their knowledge of the past. They used their technology to find hidden records, lost stories, and ancient documents that would reveal the truth. They started in the human cities, finding libraries and museums that held records from centuries ago. They walked through rooms filled with books, paintings, and old artifacts. The humans had written down their history in books and left clues in ancient ruins, just waiting to be discovered. But as they looked through the records, the aliens realized that something was missing. Some parts of history didn't match up. There were gaps, sections where the story didn't make sense. After days of searching, they found a clue in a forgotten part of the world. An old temple hidden deep in the jungle, buried under centuries of earth. This temple was not like any other the aliens had ever seen. It was older, and the walls were covered with strange symbols. The aliens carefully examined the carvings and murals, trying to understand what they meant. "What is this?" Kal asked, her voice full of wonder. Varnak studied the images. "These symbols, they tell a story of great destruction, of a time when humans almost didn't survive. There was a war. No, a battle, so fierce that it almost wiped out everything. It's clear that the humans had to rebuild themselves from nothing." The team continued to explore the ancient temple, uncovering more carvings and markings. They found evidence that humans had once faced a terrible enemy, one that was not from Earth. It was as if Earth itself had been attacked by forces beyond their control, forces that were too powerful for the humans to defeat on their own. These carvings, Varnak said, looking closer, "They show us that humans were not always strong. They were weak once, like any other species. But something happened. Something changed." As the aliens studied the carvings, they learned that the humans had discovered an incredible power, one that allowed them to survive. It was not just their will to live or their technology, but something else. It was their ability to learn from their mistakes and rise up from the ashes of destruction. The aliens were stunned. They had thought humans were a young species, just starting to grow. But now they realized that humans had been through battles, wars, and challenges that no one else had survived. They had faced destruction, not just once, but many times. And each time, they had come back stronger. "Their strength is not in their bodies," Varnak said softly. "It is in their minds. They learn, they adapt, and they overcome. That is what makes them different from us, and from every other species." Kull nodded. But why did they hide this? Why didn't they share their history with the galaxy? Varnak thought for a moment. Perhaps they wanted to forget. Perhaps they were ashamed of what they had lost. But they survived. And that survival, those scars, they made them what they are today. It is why they are so dangerous. The team left the ancient temple and returned to their ship. The records they had uncovered had told them everything they needed to know. The humans weren't just a species that had evolved slowly over time. They were survivors of a history filled with destruction and pain. And in that survival, they had found a strength no other species could match. Now the aliens understood. The humans' power wasn't just in their technology or their numbers. It was in their ability to bounce back from the hardest challenges and never give up. This was a strength that no one else had. And the aliens knew that the humans were just beginning to show their true potential. Varnak stared out the window of the spaceship, his mind racing with thoughts. "We've only seen the beginning. If the humans are just getting started, then we have a serious problem. They will change everything." The Galactic Council had learned much about humanity. They had discovered the power hidden in human history, and they knew that humans were unlike any species they had ever encountered. But despite this new understanding, there was one group that didn't care about the strength of humans. The Galactic Empire had already made up its mind. They would strike Earth. The Empire had always ruled with fear and power. They didn't care about the small species that lived on the outer planets, and they definitely didn't care about humans. To them, humans were just another race to control. The Empire was ruthless, and they believed they could crush anyone who dared to resist. The Galactic Council had warned them. Do not underestimate the humans. They are not like the others. But the Empire wasn't listening. They believed that their army was invincible, and they didn't fear any species, not even the humans. On the day of the strike, the Empire's fleet appeared in Earth's orbit. Hundreds of massive warships filled the sky, casting shadows over the planet. The humans had no idea what was coming. They were still unaware of the danger that was about to fall upon them. The Empire's fleet, led by the ruthless General Drax, descended onto the planet. Their ships were like mountains in the sky, and their weapons were designed to destroy entire cities in an instant. They had no intention of negotiating or talking. They came to conquer, to take Earth, and to crush the human resistance before it had a chance to grow. On Earth, the humans saw the dark ships in the sky, and panic spread. But there were some who didn't run. Some did not flee in fear. Instead, they gathered in groups, ready to fight. Governments all over the world started to prepare their defenses. They didn't know how to fight these invaders, but they knew one thing: this was their home, and they would not let anyone take it from them. Varnak and his alien team watched from the shadows, observing everything. They could feel the tension in the air. Humans were scared, yes, but there was something else, something different. Humans were not giving up. They were organizing, preparing, and planning. And that was something the Empire had not expected. "Look at them," said Kel, her voice filled with awe. "They're not running. They're preparing to fight. They won't just let the Empire take them." Varnak nodded, a deep worry in his voice. The Empire is underestimating them. If they think this will be easy, they are making a mistake. The first wave of the Empire's ships landed in major cities. The humans tried to fight back with everything they had. Missiles, tanks, weapons they had only used in training. But it was clear that they were outmatched. The Empire's technology was far more advanced, and their ships were nearly unstoppable. The humans fought bravely, but they were losing ground fast. General Drax stood on the bridge of his flagship, smiling as he watched the destruction below. "This will be over soon," he said, looking at his officers. "The humans are weak. Their resistance is nothing." But even as Drax spoke, something unexpected began to happen. The humans, though outgunned and outmatched, didn't give up. They kept fighting, no matter how many ships the Empire sent down. They didn't stop. It was as if every defeat only made them more determined to fight harder. In one of the cities, a group of soldiers, led by a man named Captain Jackson, managed to capture one of the Empire's smaller ships. It was a risky move, but they didn't care. They had nothing to lose. They knew they had to fight back, and they knew they had to do it now. Captain Jackson and his team took control of the enemy ship. They used the technology they had learned from the captured craft and began launching their own attacks. They struck back at the Empire's forces with unexpected strength. Humans were not only fighting. They were learning, adapting, and surprising the Empire at every turn. "Impossible," General Drax shouted from his flagship, seeing the humans fighting back in ways he didn't expect. How are they doing this? The Empire wasn't used to losing, but they were starting to lose. The humans had found ways to use the Empire's own weapons against them, and the Empire's fleet was starting to break apart. Back on Earth, the humans' resistance continued to grow. They communicated with each other, sharing plans and resources. They were fighting not just for survival, but for their planet, for their families, for everything they held dear. The humans were unstoppable now. They had no fear of the Empire. They had faced destruction before and had survived. This time, they would do it again. Varnak and his team watched as the humans turned the tide of battle. They had thought the humans were weak, but now they saw the truth. Humans were more than just a race. They were a force of nature. They fought with everything they had, and they would not stop until they won. As the Empire's forces began to retreat, General Drax issued a final order to his fleet. "Withdraw," he said, his voice filled with frustration. "The humans are not to be underestimated." Varnak watched the Empire's ships pull away from Earth. The battle was far from over, but the humans had proven something important. They were not just survivors. They were warriors, and they would never be conquered. The battle was over, and Earth was safe. For now. The Galactic Empire had underestimated the humans. They thought it would be easy to conquer the planet, but they were wrong. The humans had fought back harder than anyone could have imagined. The Empire's forces had retreated, leaving Earth in peace once again. But what the Empire didn't know was that this was only the beginning. Varnak and his team were watching from their ship in orbit. They had been observing everything, amazed by what they had seen. The humans had surprised everyone. They were not just survivors, they were fighters. They had stood up to one of the most powerful empires in the galaxy and won. It was something no one had expected. "We were right to warn them," Varnak said, his voice filled with respect. "The humans are far more dangerous than anyone thought." Cole nodded, still shocked by the human strength. "But there's something else, isn't there? They didn't just fight back. They learned, they adapted, and they won." Varnak was quiet for a moment. "Yes, they are unlike any species we have ever encountered, and I think we are only beginning to see what they are truly capable of." While the aliens watched from above, something unexpected was happening on the ground. The humans were not just celebrating their victory, they were planning. The leaders of Earth met in secret, discussing what to do next. They knew the Empire would not give up so easily. But now, the humans had a new weapon. They had learned to fight back and had learned quickly. They were ready for whatever came next. Captain Jackson, the man who had helped lead the humans to victory, stood with his fellow leaders in a hidden underground base. "The Empire will come back," he said, his face serious. "They will never forgive us for making them retreat, but we have a chance now. We know how to fight them." One of the leaders, a woman named Commander Elise, nodded. "We don't just need to defend Earth. We need to go on the offensive. The Empire must know that we will never give up. We will take the fight to them." The room was filled with determination. The humans had learned so much in such a short time. They knew they were up against a much larger force, but they also knew they had something the Empire didn't: the will to fight, the ability to learn, and the courage to face impossible odds. Meanwhile, on the Empire's side, General Drax was furious. "How could we lose to these creatures?" he growled. "This was supposed to be easy. We had the best fleet, the most advanced technology. And yet, the humans not only survived, but they fought back. They even used our own weapons against us." His officers stood silently, afraid to speak. But one of them, a brave soldier named Zorik, stepped forward. "General, the humans are not just any species. They are different. We underestimated them, but they are learning faster than we can imagine. They're adapting to our tactics. We need to rethink our strategy." Drax glared at Zorik. "What do you suggest?" "They are nothing more than an annoying bug we can crush." Zorik shook his head. "They are more than that. If we do not take them seriously, we will regret it. We should retreat and regroup. We need time to come up with a new plan. We cannot keep underestimating them." For the first time, General Drax hesitated. He had always believed the Empire was unbeatable, that nothing could stand in their way. But the humans had proven him wrong. Maybe Zorik was right. Maybe the Empire needed to take a step back and rethink their approach. Back on Earth, the humans were ready. They knew the Empire would return, but they were prepared this time. They had learned from the past, and now they had something even more powerful: unity. The different nations of Earth had come together as one, working together to defend their home. The humans had been through so much, and now they were stronger than ever. In a hidden base deep beneath the Earth's surface, human scientists worked tirelessly to develop new weapons, new technologies, and new strategies. They had learned from the Empire's ships, and they were building their own fleet. The humans were no longer just a small, weak species. They were becoming a force that could not be ignored. Captain Jackson stood with Commander Elise, looking at the plans for the new fleet. "This is just the beginning. The Empire will come back, but we won't be caught off guard. We'll be ready. We'll show them that Earth is not a planet to be conquered." Elise smiled, her eyes full of determination. "We've already shown them that. Now we need to show the galaxy what humanity can really do." As the humans prepared for the next chapter of their fight, Varnick and his team continued to watch from space. The aliens were stunned by what they saw. The humans were no longer just survivors. They were a rising power, a force that would change the galaxy forever. Varnick turned to his team. "I think we've all been wrong about humans. They are not just a species to be studied. They are a species to be reckoned with. And if the Empire isn't careful, they might just be the ones who change everything." Kel nodded in agreement. "The humans are not finished. This is just the beginning. The real fight is yet to come." The Galactic Empire had retreated, but they weren't done. They had lost the first battle, but that didn't mean they would give up. They were still planning, still preparing for their next move. The humans, however, were not afraid. They had learned from their first victory, and now they were ready to face the Empire again. On Earth, the humans had been working nonstop. They were building new weapons, creating new technology, and preparing their defenses. The humans had shown their strength once, but now they needed to prove they were more than just survivors. They needed to show the galaxy that Earth was not a planet to be conquered. Captain Jackson stood with Commander Elise in the command center. The room was filled with screens showing the latest updates on the Empire's movements. The humans had no illusions about what was coming. The Empire was preparing for another attack. But this time, the humans were ready. "We can't let them catch us off guard again," Captain Jackson said. "We need to be smarter, faster. They have the better technology. But we have something they don't: the will to fight." Elise nodded. "Exactly. We've learned a lot from the first battle. We know their weaknesses now. We just need to use that to our advantage." Around the world, humans were working together like never before. The different nations, once divided by borders and differences, had united in the face of a common enemy. They were sharing resources, information, and technology. The humans had come together, stronger than ever. On the ground, Earth's military forces were training harder than before. Soldiers, pilots, and scientists worked day and night, learning new tactics and improving their skills. They were preparing for the Empire's return, but they were also preparing for something else. They were preparing to take the fight to the Empire's homeworld. The humans knew they couldn't just wait for the Empire to attack again. They had to show the galaxy that they weren't afraid, that they were not a species to be ignored. They had to fight back, and they had to fight hard. In secret bases hidden around the world, human scientists were working on new technology. They were reverse engineering the Empire's ships and weapons, learning how to use them against the invaders. It was slow work, but it was paying off. The humans were creating their own fleet, one that could rival the Empire's. One of the scientists, Dr. Maria Harris, had been working on a new type of weapon that could pierce through the Empire's shields. She had been studying the energy sources used by the Empire's ships, trying to find a way to disrupt their power systems. After months of hard work, she finally had a breakthrough. "I think we've done it," Dr. Harris said, her voice filled with excitement. "This new weapon will be able to break through their shields. We just need to get it to the front lines." The news spread quickly through Earth's military. The humans now had a weapon that could turn the tide of the war. They were no longer just fighting to survive. They were fighting to win. As the humans prepared, Varnek and his team continued to observe from space. The aliens had watched as the humans grew stronger, learning more with each passing day. They had once underestimated humanity, thinking they were just a small, weak species. But now, they saw the truth. Humans were not weak. They were a force to be reckoned with. "I've been watching them," Varnek said, his voice filled with awe. "The humans are not just learning from their mistakes. They are evolving. They are becoming something greater than they were before." Kull nodded, still amazed by the human's strength. "It's like they can't be stopped. They fight with everything they have. It's as if they were born to fight." Varnak looked out the window of their ship, his eyes focused on Earth. The Empire is going to regret underestimating them. The humans have proven they are more than just survivors. They are warriors, and they will not stop until they have won. Back on Earth, the humans were preparing for the final confrontation. The Empire would return soon, but this time, the humans would not be caught off guard. They had weapons that could challenge the Empire, and they had the strength to use them. The fight would not be easy, but the humans were ready. Captain Jackson and Commander Elise stood together, watching as Earth's new fleet was prepared for launch. "This is it," Jackson said. "We've trained, we've learned, and now we fight. We show the galaxy what humans are made of." Elise smiled, her eyes full of determination. "We are not just fighting for Earth. We are fighting for every planet, every species that has been crushed by the Empire. We are fighting for the future." The humans were ready. They had shown their strength, and now they were going to show the galaxy that they could not be defeated. The Empire would come again, but this time, the humans would be waiting. They would not back down. They would not give up. The humans were no longer just a species to be feared. They were a force of nature, and they were about to prove it. The final battle was approaching. The humans had prepared as best as they could, but the real challenge was still ahead. The Empire was coming back with everything they had. But Earth was no longer the weak planet it once was. The humans were ready. Across the world, people watched as the new human fleet prepared to launch. Captain Jackson stood on the deck of the flagship, staring out at the massive ships lined up for battle. These ships weren't like the ones they had used before. They were stronger, faster, and more advanced. Earth's scientists and engineers had worked together to create a fleet that could take on the might of the Galactic Empire. "This is it," Captain Jackson said quietly, his voice full of determination. "The future of humanity is in our hands." Commander Elise joined him, looking out at the fleet as well. "We've come a long way since that first battle. We've learned so much. Now it's time to show the galaxy what humans can do." The fleet's engines roared to life as the ships began to move into position. The humans had spent months preparing, training, and building their strength. They knew that this would not be an easy fight, but they also knew they had something the Empire didn't: the will to win. As the humans launched their ships into space, Varnak and his team watched from their position in orbit. The aliens had been watching the humans closely, and what they saw amazed them. The humans were no longer just defending their planet. They were taking the fight to the Empire. They were showing the galaxy that Earth was a force to be reckoned with. "I never thought I'd see the day," Varnak said, shaking his head in disbelief. "The humans are fighting not just for Earth, but for the entire galaxy." Kull nodded, his eyes focused on the human ships. They are no longer just a small species. They are becoming something greater. The Empire may have the power, but the humans have something more. They have the heart to keep going, no matter the cost. The humans were not just fighting for their own survival. They were fighting for every species that had been oppressed by the Empire. They were fighting for a future where the Empire no longer controlled the galaxy. They were fighting for freedom. On Earth, the leaders of the planet were gathered in a secure location, preparing for the coming battle. They knew this would be the moment that would define humanity's future. If they won, Earth would be a new power in the galaxy. If they lost, the Empire would crush them, and the rest of the galaxy under their boot. But the humans were not afraid. "We can do this," Commander Elise said, her voice firm and full of conviction. "We have proven that we can stand up to the Empire. We've shown them that we're not weak. Now it's time to show them that the future belongs to us." Back in space, the battle was about to begin. The Empire's fleet appeared, massive and menacing. Their ships were equipped with powerful weapons and shields, designed to crush anything in their path. The humans had prepared for this moment. They knew the Empire's strengths, but they also knew their weaknesses. As the two fleets faced off, Captain Jackson gave the order: "Engage." The human ships charged forward, their weapons blazing. The battle was fierce, with explosions lighting up the darkness of space. The Empire's ships were powerful, but the humans fought with everything they had. They were not just fighting for their lives. They were fighting for their future. On the front lines, soldiers and pilots pushed forward, their hearts full of hope and determination. They had fought so hard to get here. They had lost so much. But now, they were fighting for something bigger. They were fighting for a future where they could live free, without the fear of the Empire's oppression. As the battle raged on, the humans began to push the Empire back. The new human weapons, designed to pierce the Empire's shields, were making a difference. One by one, the Empire's ships began to fall. The humans weren't just surviving. They were winning. In the command center, Commander Elise watched as the battle unfolded. She had known the humans were capable of this, but seeing it with her own eyes was something else. "We're doing it," she whispered, her voice filled with pride. "We're winning." As the final Empire ship exploded in a burst of fire, the humans knew they had won. The Galactic Empire had been defeated. Earth had not only survived, they had proven that they were the future of the galaxy. The humans had shown their strength. They had fought for their home, for their freedom, and for their future. And now, The galaxy would know that Earth was not a planet to be conquered. It was a planet that would rise to greatness. Back on Earth, the people celebrated. They had won the battle, but they knew that their true fight was just beginning. The galaxy had seen what humans were capable of, and now the future was theirs to shape. Captain Jackson stood on the steps of a government building, looking out over the crowd. We've shown the galaxy that we are not just survivors. We are warriors. We are humans, and the future belongs to us. And with that, the humans knew that their journey was just beginning. The galaxy was full of possibilities, and now they had the power to shape it. The future was human.